Today's video is going to be an Art Deco drinks cabinet dream. And not only that, I'm collabing with 4 other awesome YouTubers who are doing the same thing, finding a drinks cabinet and giving it a makeover. So I'll show you my step-by-step process in this video, and then be sure to check out all the other videos that will be linked in the playlist in the description. It's going to be awesome. Before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about this cabinet. So I found it on Facebook Marketplace for free. Yes, for free. The bottom cupboard doors were locked when I went to pick it up, so I couldn't see what was inside. But as any of you furniture flippers know, you hold on to any hardware you find, including keys. So this means I have a stash of keys, and luckily one of the ones I had fit the lock to open the door, and no hidden treasures inside, just a piece of cardboard. The cocktail cabinet is structurally sound and in really good condition. There's no major damage, it's just a little tired and a little dusty. The top drop down part of the cabinet is in good shape. The mirrors look good, they just need a good clean. And I need to replace the cocktail sticks, there's some missing. And you can see on the bottom there's some beautiful carved detail around the base, which we are going to highlight with some beautiful gold wax. So let's get started. First of all, I'm going to dismantle the cabinet. In my experience, this is the best and the easiest way in the long run to get it cleaned properly and to get the best finish on all your different elements. It takes a while in the beginning to dismantle everything, but it really does save you time in the long run over the whole project, I think. So I use my Bosch mini drill to remove the hardware, and then I keep the hardware safely stored in individual plastic bags, and I label each bag with where it came from on the cabinet. So like top mirror, left door, bottom mirror, right hinge, left hinge, things like that. And then I'll remove all the mirrors so I can give them a good clean front and back. Now that it's all dismantled, we're going to remove the old finish. On this particular project, I used a mixture of sanding and also paint stripper. So I sanded off the old varnish with 120 grit and then went up to 180 grit and used some mineral spirits to wipe away the sanding dust. When you apply mineral spirits to the wood, it gives you a really good idea of how it's going to look once you apply your new finish. and it also helps to highlight any areas where there might still be varnish that hasn't come off properly and where you need to go in with a little bit more sanding. For the sides of the cabinet, I used a chemical stripper. It's called Paramos, and it is really heavy duty, and you can get it as on trade, I believe, a trade account here in the UK. But another one I recommend that's available for general public is Panther Paint Stripper. That's one here in the UK, and I find that one works really well. So I'm using heavy duty gloves, like chemical resistant gloves. I'm using a respirator. I'm making sure that my workshop extractor's going and that there's good ventilation. The paint stripper just eats through the old varnish in no time, so I leave it for about 10 minutes and then I'll use a metal scraper to scrape it back. And how satisfying are these curls? Doesn't this remind you of those chocolate curls that you get in some of those chocolate shops? Anyway, once I've scraped all the paint stripper gunk off, I'll then wash it down with some white spirit or methylated spirit. I had run out of white spirit, so I was using methylated spirit on this occasion, and 40 steel wool, which is a really fine steel wool. And the reason I do this is that it stops the chemical reaction of the stripper and it helps to remove all that residual chemical stripper before we move on to the next stage. So once that's all fully dry, you're then going to sand with 180 grit just to smooth out the surface of the wood, ready for the varnish. I'm also scuff sanding the legs so that the wax that I'm going to use, rub and buff, has a slightly rough surface to adhere to when I apply it. Moving to the inside of the cabinet now, I'm using this gorgeous blue Art Deco fan print wallpaper to decoupage the inside. I tried to measure out the rough size and position for each section and any joins that need to happen, then cut it down to size before I start gluing it down. It's a lot easier to work with smaller pieces of paper than big pieces or the whole roll at a time. If I'm working with any awkward shape areas, I like to lay down and tape together A4 printer paper to sort of map out and get a template of the area. Then I can move that template onto the wallpaper and cut the shape out so it's ready to apply straight to the furniture. I use Seeker Contractor PVA to apply my wallpaper to the furniture, but any good quality strong white PVA glue will do. Not white craft glue, it will have to be sort of PVA glue that you get in a hardware store. I've used Mod Podge in the past, but it's just so expensive in the UK now. I think it's £50 for a big bottle, and I refuse to spend that when one of these tubs costs about £20. And then once I've laid the paper down on the glue, I will use a wallpaper smoother to smooth over that paper to remove any of the air bubbles and the excess glue so that the paper dries nice and flat to the surface and adheres really well. Just wipe away any of the glue squeeze out with some paper towel. And always remember to use a sharp blade when you're trimming down the excess paper, otherwise you're likely to get rips and tears in the paper. I normally change my blade for a fresh one at the start of every new project, and I'd also recommend leaving the paper to dry fully overnight and then trim away any excess. This allows the paper to dry and harden, and it'll give you the cleanest edge and finish. If you try to cut the paper when it's wet, it more than likely will rip. Once the paper and the glue has fully dried, I'd say 24 hours, then I'll apply 3 to 4 coats of varnish to seal it in and protect it. I normally use Ronseal Diamond Hard Satin Varnish, but any water-based varnish would be fine. For the outside of the piece, I use Fiddy's Hard Wax Oil and Satin to really make that beautiful walnut wood grain pop. I find oils bring out the best in a wood grain over water-based varnishes and water-based products. The oil just really makes that wood grain pop. I'll apply 2 to 3 coats of the hard wax oil, leaving it to dry fully in between each coat, normally 12 to 24 hours depending on the weather. For the inside of the doors, I use an Art Deco fan stencil and Fusion Metallics in gold to stencil on that Art Deco pattern on the door to complement the wallpaper. For the detailing on the outside of the cabinet, the edges that I highlighted with gold and the legs and the detailing, I went through 3 different variations of gold, each one not being quite right, so having to start over, and I finally settled on Rub and Buff in gold leaf, as I thought the tone of this one really worked with the overall piece. The other ones I used were either too brassy gold or too yellow. It just wasn't quite right for the piece. But yeah, Rub and Buff and gold leaf was the one that worked the best for me. Once everything's been glued down, top coat added, oil added, dried, then it's time to start reassembling the cabinet. It's a pretty straightforward process. Just make sure that everything is aligned correctly and you're putting things back where they belong. This is why I think it helps to keep everything in individual bags or containers so that you know where they need to go back. For original hardware pieces on the furniture, such as hinges, locks, anything like that which needs to go back on the cabinet that will normally not look in the best shape, I'll apply a coat of metal primer which comes in a spray paint bottle, and then once I've primed them, I'll use Rust-Oleum gold spray paint and then a gloss varnish just to make them look in keeping with the rest of the cabinet. And so once everything's been assembled, you can add back on the handles, and this is a great time to really modernize the piece or personalize it and make it your own. My client wanted the existing cabinet knob that was on the top pull down part of the cupboard to be replaced, so we went for this beautiful brass knob from French Furniture Fittings, and I think it just looks gorgeous against that wood grain and on this piece as a whole. And now that you're done, you can stand back and admire your work. I'm absolutely in love with how this cocktail cabinet turned out, and I really hope that you are too. It's a beautiful and unique piece that will add a touch of elegance to any home. my client was absolutely delighted with how her cabinet turned out. She was so pleased, and that just means everything to me. It's going to be pride of place in her entryway, and so whenever she has visitors, the first thing they'll see is this beautiful cocktail cabinet when they walk into her home. So that just makes me, warm and fuzzy inside. I hope that you enjoyed this video and learned something new. If you did, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more DIY projects, thrifting, vintage home decor, all that good stuff. And if you have any questions, then just leave me a comment below. I really enjoy hearing from you guys, so let me know what you're working on in the comments below, and share your projects. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye!